Welcome back, fam. I'm Wyatt Paints, and you guessed it, today I got a special video for you. To explain, let me show you something. This is what I was gonna paint today. The first full-size prop replica for the channel, Mjolnir. Unfortunately, while I was doing a lot of the seam work and sanding, I got a little too eager and put my thumb through it. So that's not going to really work today. But one of my friends saw my posts on Facebook and was still interested in having the hammer possibly in the background of his podcast. We're going to paint this up for him real quick. We're not going to worry about this hole because this side's not going to be seen. It's going to be this side and it's going to be in the background, so it's not a big deal. I couldn't just leave it at that. So I made this one too. So we're going to have some fun today. We're going to paint two Mjolnirs in two different styles. Let's get started. Starting with the first hammer, I'm going to be priming with Rust-Oleum Flat Black Primer. Personally, I like using this rattle can primer over priming with my airbrush as it saves me a ton of time because I don't have to set up or clean my airbrush after. Plus, this brand is very affordable compared to Army Painter or Game Workshop primers. You can usually find a deal on a 6-pack of them for roughly $5 to $7 a can. I gave the head and handle 2 thin coats for full coverage and then let them dry for a full day. Be aware, if you use this product, you need to make sure your parts are very well cleaned. If your parts still have any shiny parts after curing, that's a sign of semi-cured resin and it should be removed. If you spray on top of this, it will react and never dry. Also, depending on the resin you're using, it may take up to a week to fully cure. Be sure to test it out on a scrap piece of support to be sure. Before I start with any metallics, I wanted to make sure that the lettering was blacked out, as I did not get a great coverage from the spray. This is because I didn't want to end up overspraying the primer just to get into the deep recesses. A few minutes with some black paint dabbed in was plenty to get them ready. For the metallic head, I used chainmail silver and shining silver. Starting with chainmail on my biggest brush, I kept the strokes broad and going in one direction to create a grain for the metal. The rough look of the black showing through gives the appearance of a heavily worn pig iron. I followed this up with a lighter dry brush of shining silver. This is more focused on the filigree and the engravings on each side. Just remember not to overdo it. For the handle, dark German brown was used for the leather wrappings. This is kind of hard to notice on camera because it's so close to black, but trust me, it's there. A single coat was enough, so I moved on to the grips. For that, I chose to use bright bronze. Doing the end cap gave me a lot of confidence that this would work out fine, but I was wrong. Honestly, it was a poor choice to not only paint this with a brush, but to do them after I did the brown bits on the handle. Painting each of these rings was probably the most tedious thing I've done all year. And worse yet, I had to do a lot of cleanup to repaint the brown parts, and even then I wasn't thrilled with the look. Thankfully, this will only be used as a background set dressing, so it only needs to look good from about 10 feet away, so it should be fine. But it's a good idea to take these lessons I learned and apply them to the second hammer. But first, this is a good time to thank my subscribers over on Patreon. Your continued support is keeping the lights on. Thanks. If you'd like to help the channel, there's a link below in the description to my Patreon, so you can join the painting pantheon too. Now let's get back to painting. For the second hammer, again, we're going to start with primer. This time though, I'm going to be using a gloss primer on the head, but same as before, I made sure to get 2 thin coats for full coverage. The gloss here is important for the technique I'll be using on it. In fact, I went back and gave it a coat of gloss varnish as well, and then gave it a full day to cure. I needed a very glossy surface for the next step. While that cured, I jumped over to the handle. Learning from the last one, I opted to use my airbrush and start painting the grips first. For that, I mixed up a custom metallic using mica powder and varnish. You can find mica powders on Amazon fairly cheap. In fact, I picked up this set for about 10 bucks. When using this stuff, be sure to go slow and wear PPE. This stuff is super fine and you do not want to breathe it in because it's literally metal flakes. So safety first. I also use a few drops of flow improver to thin out the mix, and then I cranked my airbrush pressure up to 35 to 40 psi because this stuff is thick. But as you can see, it went on beautifully and in far less time than the brush took. To finish the handle, I again used dark German brown. Compared to the first hammer, this was a breeze. Using a large flat brush allowed me to get right up to the lip of the grips super easy, and then instead of moving the brush, I just twisted the handle. And like before, 2 coats and it was done. For the head, I broke out one of my favorite mediums for metallics, Graphite Powder. I picked up this bottle from Amazon for about 15 bucks. You can grind your own using a pencil and sandpaper in a pinch though. Like with the Mica Powder, you'll want to use PPE to prevent breathing this in. And in all honesty, you may want to do this outside because of the mess the powder makes. Just make sure it's not a windy day or it will not go well. Using cotton balls, I buffed the powder into the surface. The idea here is to impregnate the gloss varnish with a layer of graphite, but be careful because it will make it slippery to hold on to. The final look will be similar to a dark chrome. Now from here, you can add another coat of gloss varnish to seal it, but it will darken it a lot, so I opted to just leave it as is. With that said, here are our final looks for the 2 hammers. If you're interested in picking up mica powder or graphite powder, you can use my Amazon affiliate links below. It won't cost you any extra, but Amazon will toss me a couple of those peso bucks for the referral. If you liked this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as it looks like I'm cruising my way to 200 subs. Legit hype. And as usual, thank you for watching, keep creating, and enjoy the process.